In today's world, it's easy to become caught up in the hustle and bustle of everyday life, and sometimes we forget to extend a helping hand to those in need. But in this heartwarming story, one waitress went above and beyond to make a difference in someone's life. Let's take a look at how a waitress fed a homeless person and was shocked to find out who he really was. Please like and share the video, subscribe to this channel, and click the bell icon for more updates. She earned a living waitressing. Cindy from Canada was earning a living as a waitress. It wasn't exactly the most exciting job in the world, but there were a few perks. For starters, she didn't need a lot of work experience to get the job, and she could do it at odd hours, which allowed her to attend classes. Admittedly, the pay wasn't great, but she could earn more in tips than any other job that paid minimum wage. Besides, it was also the only job she could get, and she needed to pay rent. Working at a restaurant wasn't all bad. She considered herself a fairly decent waitress, and she was a people person, too. She got to meet a bunch of amazing and interesting people from different walks of life. Also, the pace was never boring and she got to eat some of the amazing food that was cooked by the chefs at the restaurant during her break. On top of that, she was moving all the time and constantly lifting, twisting, reaching, and carrying things, so she never really had to go to the gym to burn calories. She was a kind-hearted person. Cindy was friendly to everyone, which came in handy in her line of work. But one day, she got the chance to show kindness outside of the restaurant when she ran into a homeless man near her place of work. She saw right away that the stranger was struggling and couldn't take it anymore. So, she decided to act right away to ease his suffering. She had no idea that her generosity would have an unforeseen outcome. She dreamt of becoming a chef. Cindy worked at one of Canada's most prestigious restaurants, and since they had 2 Michelin stars under their belt, they expected nothing more than the highest quality of work from their employees. This was okay with her since she had been a hard worker all of her life. She also dreamed of trading her server apron for a chef's apron. She was already studying to be a chef, and this job was giving her the work experience she needed, not to mention the money to pay for her education. Culinary school is tough. Most students who attend culinary school are told that 75% of their classmates will drop out before the program is completed, and many of them do. That's because a lot of students learn that it's not always the kind of glamorous career that reality food shows make being a chef out to be. It's a lot of hard work and a long process to learn all there is to know about the trade before one becomes a master chef. However, Cindy felt she would be ready to take on such a responsibility someday. It was just a matter of waiting for the right opportunity to come along. In the meantime, she had plenty to keep her busy. Restaurant food was expensive. The place she worked in wasn't some low-budget diner off the side of the highway that sold menu items for $9.99 or less. The guests who walked through the door of her restaurant forked over several $100s per night on fancy dishes. Cindy was happy that the restaurant was doing so well because it ensured that she would have a job for as long as she needed one. But a part of her had a hard time accepting that some people could afford such pricey dishes while a homeless man went to sleep around the corner of the restaurant with an empty stomach. The sad reality. No one should ever have to worry about whether they'll have food on their plate or a roof over their head. But the sad reality is that the hunger and homelessness in the land of plenty have become widespread problems that affect thousands of people. And those living on the brink of poverty are forced to choose between buying food or paying rent. They also know that there's a possibility that they might end up on the streets someday. This was a reality that made Cindy shudder. She didn't want to end up homeless ever, and she hated the fact that others had to go through that. The homeless guy always smiled. Cindy always took the same route to and from work, and the homeless man was always in the same spot. Even when the weather outside was frightful, the man was there, but what surprised her the most was that he always smiled at passers-by. She couldn't believe that someone in his situation could ever be this cheerful. She knew that if their positions were reversed, she would be too depressed to smile or engage anyone in conversations. But this guy didn't have that problem. He just wanted to talk. One of the primary reasons why people generally avoid talking to the homeless is that they don't like being asked for money or food. But what Cindy found most interesting about this homeless man was the fact that he never asked for a handout or anything from anyone. All he wanted was for people to talk to him and really see him. Cindy liked this about the homeless stranger but had no idea that the guy wasn't showing his true self to anyone. He didn't want to be alone. At a glance, the homeless guy was like most other people on the streets. He was huddled in a corner, trying to stay warm against the harsh elements. He also appeared to be very lonely, and a little sad too. This broke her heart, but she marveled at all the times that he managed to put a smile on his face and engage people in conversation. He wasn't begging them for jobs, money, food, or clothes. He just didn't want to be alone, and there was no better cure for loneliness than conversation. But not everyone was in a talkative mood. People weren't always nice to him. Although some people were kind to the homeless man, they weren't all angels. In fact, Cindy recalled seeing people ignoring him as they walked right past him, so the guy spent all day without a soul to talk to. Others simply pointed and laughed at his misery. Then there was the one time when a bunch of boys spat into his cup. She felt this was a mean-spirited thing to do to someone who was down on his luck, and it broke her heart. Shelters aren't always the best option. She figured that he probably would have been safer at a shelter, but some homeless people don't like going to shelters because the supply of beds is extremely limited. They also have some restrictions like not allowing pets, which is non-negotiable to some homeless people because to them, pets are their most faithful companions. And if that weren't bad enough, most shelters have curfews that prevent the homeless from entering or leaving after a specific time. This curfew makes it difficult for the residents who find jobs that only offer night shift or late-night positions because they can't head back to the shelter to rest after work. The homeless man turns out to be diagnosed with a terminal form of bone cancer. The reason for his extremely friendly nature without being driven to ask for money or food is because he's already a millionaire. The issue he has is after he passes away he has no one to leave his fortune to as his wife has already passed and he has no children. Everyone he knows has always tried to befriend him for monetary reasons. He came up with the idea to portray himself as a homeless person to find someone with a pure soul with a good-hearted nature he felt was deserving of him willing his fortune to. The waitress showed she was indeed this person. At the end of the story it would come to a close with her seeing him one final day. It was raining outside. It was cold, and she hated to see him in the rain being cold. She invites him to follow her to her restaurant to get out of the cold and have a fresh bowl of hot soup. This is where he lets her know who he really is and explains her financial worries are now gone as he explains to her that her good nature proves she will make sure the money he leaves her is spent wisely on her dream of becoming a chef in her own restaurant while remembering how important it is to never forget that helping others is the real key to happiness. We hope you found this video helpful. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them below. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more great content. Thanks for watching.